Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special Thursday night edition of the Top Shelf Weekly Update. As you all know, we have been following the House Bill 2704 very closely, in the past couple of months, and we have been watching it. We watched it go through the Public Safety Committee hearing, which was really great, and I have heard that it actually made some moves today. So I have actually brought some special guests on with me tonight. You guys may know them by now, I hope so. This is Ethan Tampy and Tim Gilio, and you guys are basically the guys to go to for information about House Bill 2704 as far as I'm concerned, because we know you are both on the front lines constantly looking out for us and fighting for what is right for the people. So I will basically just give you guys the floor. If you'd like to give us the the updates that you know of, we'd really appreciate it. And then maybe I could even convince them to answer some questions that you guys have as we go on.
Well, thank you, Stuart.
No problem.
Thank you for having me and Tim here.
Sure.
Tim has been.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Tim has been a great help and a great inspiration in this process because he has really done a lot of work to capture the attention of ordinary Missourians from all over the state. And quite frankly, we wouldn't have a shot in hell without the work he's done. So yeah, we had a couple advancements this week. I want to talk about that. So on Tuesday, House Bill 2704 got voted out on a 6-4 vote from the House Legislative Oversight Rules Committee.
Which is huge.
Yep.
Did we even think we were going to be in the Rules Committee this quick? I mean,
yeah.
I know I was getting some warnings. Sorry to interrupt you, but I know I was kind of getting some warnings from a representative, like, oh, well, these things are kind of slow working. Of course, you were right there with the, kind of to explain the path that you guys have set forth. So I just want you guys to know how huge that really is. Today is a really big
I don't think it's ever been done in any other
victory.
state, in fact, and especially removing it off the drug schedule.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever been done before.
It was 6-4 is what I heard, so it was really close.
Yep. And actually, we had 2 of the no votes would have switched if it had been closer. So if we, so we had some help there. And part of what it tells you that we got through the Rules Committee is that the Speaker of the House, Rob Vescovo, is intervening to ensure that we get this bill to the floor and we have a full debate for the state of Missouri to watch.
I love that.
So next step in the process is that, so today the bill was reported out of committee. Initially, the chairman of the Rules Committee, Phil Cristofanelli, was trying to hold on to the bill and not report it out, which would have been a delay tactic. And we know that the lobbyist for MoCan Trade and Legal Missouri, Tommy Robbins, was behind him trying to get him to hold on to the bill and bottle us up for another week or so.
Right.
Fortunately, thanks to the Speaker and thanks to Ron Hicks, we were able to get the bill reported out to the floor this morning. The next step is that Majority Floor Leader Dean Plocker. He's a Republican from Des Peres in West St. Louis County. He has to bring us up on the informal calendar for debate. Once he does that, and we find a time to bring it up on the House floor probably next week, we will do what is called perfection. So the perfection part of the bill process is when the full House of Representatives debates the bill, amendments are offered, and we come to, the House of Representatives votes to accept the bill.
So that reminds me, that word amendments, okay?
Yes.
So that kind of takes me back. So, the way that we have, the only way that we have gotten this far, in my opinion, is through compromise. All right, so we did see some amendments coming out of rules, right? I know
the Rules Committee cannot make amendments.
So
it was the original committee, Public Safety.
Okay, so the Public Safety Committee. Okay, so there's been quite a bit of chatter about that, about those changes that were made. So I would really, I'd appreciate it if you maybe would touch on some of those, because we've got some that are some things that are very important to us, regarding like expungements, right? Like we want that to be very strong. We want to know if there were any changes regarding that. Everybody's been talking about license caps, of course. That word's been thrown around a lot, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of need to talk about it, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So the original committee that we went through, which is House Public Safety Committee, we had a hearing on it initially. We had a public hearing. A lot of you guys came up and
That's right,
testified.
that's
We
right.
had
We
over
were all
40
there.
witnesses.
You guys were there. Thank you.
Yeah, we had over 40 witnesses show up, and then we had almost 100 people submit written testimony as well. So it was a lot of testimony, and then we know that a lot of you sent testimony or sent emails to your state representatives in support, and then so the committee chairman did a couple things that we weren't happy with. Number one, he held on to the bill for 22 days. Right? He should have had the executive session on the bill, the next week after that we had the hearing, and said he waited an extra week. The second thing is the committee chairman, Shane Roden, came up with a 20-page amendment to the bill that we didn't get to see before he dropped it. And what happened was the lobbyist from OCAN Trade in Legal Missouri got into his ear and sat down with him literally the night before and came up with this amendment. And originally they tried to put strict license caps on the bill, which meant essentially the same licensing framework as what we see in the initiative petition.
Right.
Fortunately, we had Representative Ashley Bland Manlove in that committee, and she grabbed a hold of the chair as soon as he announced he had an amendment. She said, "Okay, we're going to have a problem if we don't at least loosen this up." So she forced him to double the license cap, and then there were some other substantive amendments, but none of them really touched the expungement part. I think the only part of the amendment that touched expungement was that if you have like a violent crime that you pled down from to a marijuana charge, which I guess happens sometimes. I'm not aware of cases where this happened, but apparently it happens sometimes.
Yeah, all right.
At least according to the chairman. Then those.
I guess I could understand that, given what we know about certain things.
Yeah. So I'm not. Like I said, I'm not familiar of any cases where a
Right.
prosecutor willingly let someone plead down from a violent
Let's just
charge
Let's
to
just make it up.
right
Why
to a
not
marijuana
make it up?
charge.
Anyway, but no, I understand. It's like when you get a speeding ticket. Next thing you know, it's a blinker.
Let's
Right.
let's
That's
say you're in a domestic violence incident. You hit your wife. Right. Cops show up, and you have a bag of weed on you. Well, maybe the prosecutor says, "Hey, plead down to this bag of weed, and we'll drop the."
Wow. Okay.
Right. So I guess that
Drop the
happens.
domestic and take the weed charge.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Which
So
does happen.
so let's
Right.
let's just stay on target though. Okay. So expungements sound
Yeah.
fairly intact, right? Can we say that?
Yeah.
All right. So the next most important thing to us, okay, the word cannabis independence, the phrase, that's kind of a big deal to us. So what that means is what has changed for the home grower? What has changed for the person who wishes to achieve cannabis
The amendment
independence?
that the chairman put on also took us down from 12 mature flowering plants to 6. And I think that's pretty much it. I'd have to refresh my memory and look at
Okay.
the actual text to.
Right, and that's not
and-
not affecting the medical program. That's just
Correct.
on the recreational side. That just means that everybody has the right, every adult in Missouri has the right to grow this certain amount. And you're saying that it was 12 and they cut that back to 6,
Yes.
right? Okay. So is
So-
that in each stage? I'm guessing you said flowering, but right now it's in each stage. Tim, is that one more for you?
Well, that's one that I want to stand by and make these added amendments. And Manny talked about getting these added back on. So the war's not over.
Right.
So,
that's another point that I want to get to once we sort of get through this little tough, mucky part here.
So when we come up for the perfection debate on the House floor, what happens is we'll have the chance to offer amendments of our own, right? And the dynamic in the full House of 163 state representatives is vastly different from the dynamic in a committee of 10,
Of course.
right? And on the House floor, we have the support of the Speaker of the House, which makes a huge difference. So we're gonna strip off all the stuff that got added in committee that we didn't like, or at least we're going to try to. Ron has pledged to fight to tear off the license caps. We tried to bring some of the industry over to our side. That didn't happen, so we said, screw it. We're done trying to compromise with you guys. So that's where we are.
So, okay, that actually reminds me, back it up again. What about the craft license or the micro license? Are you, how did
So-
it affect that in any way?
So we're not opposed to having a craft certification for a smaller grow as long as there's not a cap on licenses, right? So we're going to go one of two ways on this. Like either we're going to have no cap on licenses, which means all you craft growers are free to do whatever you like, or if we do have a cap on production, then we're going to fight to include craft production, right? And actually the language that Tim and I have looked at and tried to put together is, why don't we have unlimited craft grow licenses and cap the large production spaces for the large commercial growers?
Me and Vernon were talking about this earlier for the show of the ability for, we don't really care what the big guys are doing now. Like you said, the medical thing doesn't make a difference to us now. I mean, we can't change anything about that.
It's just a different conversation.
It's a different, but we want the same opportunity for the smaller guys. So let the big guys still have their monopoly, but put a cap on the big guys, and let the smaller growers still have the ability. No cap on the smaller growers, on the craft growers is the bottom.
I mean,
line.
that's a good point
what we'd
because
like to shoot for is
right. I mean, if you do cap the big guys, I mean, somebody's going to have to make up for whatever they're not doing. So, and I think
And
there's
that-
actually still room for that. I think that once everything switches over to legal, and everybody, can come completely out of the shadows, you'll see that, there's definitely room for everybody.
I would also highlight, and Tim, I think you'll agree with me on this, there's still a great lack of knowledge in the legislature on the subject, right? Because when you talk to me about a cap on production, then I'm going to say, well, look, it's nice that, that company's growing all this sour diesel or these sour cookies or whatever, but I want craft genetics. I want dialed-in genetics, right? Like some genetics, and you know this, right? You got these 20-foot sativas up in Emerald Triangle. That's not going to fit into commercial indoor grow space. It's impractical for them to do that, or
right, very long flowers.
or you have plants, you have genetics that have long
You have lots of
flowering
reasons
times.
not to do that from a production business standpoint. I don't know what this noise is. We don't have any giveaways scheduled.
I see the viewer question too. That's
So yeah, let's talk about parental protection since you guys brought it up. Are we talking about like parental protections against getting your kids taken away? I'm guessing from you for cannabis.
So
use?
one of the places where there's no controversy is over the question of should we create protections for people so that marijuana is not used as a stick against them in family court, right? So there's no controversy over that.
Right. Good. So it
I
sounds
actually
like
had an issue with this. That just happened with my daughter recently. And
All right,
in fact,
how'd that
I was
go?
just talking. Well, it's not going to go well for her forever unless something's done about it. She's a straight A student. She's holds 2 jobs. She's never been in trouble in her entire life. She got caught with a vape pen at school. So this is in regards to, I'm the parent here. So
Okay.
we're talking about my daughter. She got caught with a vape pen at school, and she wasn't charged in a criminal court, but because the school has that record, her brother's in the military, and he's in holds a high position in the military.
okay.
She could never hold that, and intelligence. She could never get
So
a
mark
job
on
in
her
intelligence, and therefore, or 1,000 other jobs,
course.
and schools, and so this is beyond just the. If you take away the whole criminal
And
element
how
to it,
old
and
is she?
She's 8. She just turned 18 years old.
Well, I mean, I understand being a protective parent, even still with an 18-year-old, but I don't know if those are quite the parental protections.
No, I'm
that we're
sorry.
looking for.
I
yeah,
kinda
parental
changed the subject,
protections
but this-
against pissing dad off. Don't come
Right.
for his daughter. It's not going to be good.
No, I just kind of wanted to throw that in there. Just I'm sorry, but
No,
I
you're
went off-
fine. I totally understand,
off
and
topic a little
that's a terrible fight that we're still having to deal with sometimes. Of course, now we do have the medical program, thank goodness, and hopefully we're moving towards recreational at this point. But what about the parents whose kids, cannabis is often used against parents in parental court for custody battles, or even, when the parents are together, the kids could be taken away and put into foster care. So those are the parental protections I believe that you're kind of talking about and concerned about. And it sounds like those are strong, right? Is that what you
Yes.
just said? If
Yes.
I'm not mistaken,
Correct.
we're not worried about that. Those are good to go. So that's fantastic. And I mean, that's a given. They would have to. How are they going to legalize it for everybody to use? And then it's like, haha, now we're taking your kids over. Like, oh, you tricky bastards, got us again. But anyway, so where were we?
So, like I said, we're headed to the perfection
That's
stage.
good.
of
I
the
like
bill.
that you had that ready to go.
Right, we're gonna head to the House floor. We're gonna debate what's in the bill. We're gonna debate amendments. Ron's gonna have amendments to strip off the license caps at the Public Safety Committee.
So, and that'll be debated on the House floor.
Absolutely. And I'll add, this is a debate that's been happening in the House for 6 years. In 2016, we had a debate on license caps in the House floor, and the sentiment from a significant number of the state representatives was, maybe we'll support medical marijuana, but we're not going to support license caps. That was a legislative consensus at the time.
I think it's a consensus on a lot of the advocates out here, including myself.
Right, and then
Most definitely.
last
That would be
year,
ideal, right?
Then last year, the House voted 118 to 29 to sanction the health department for not taking the license caps off. So there's strong precedent for us to believe that we'll be able to do that, right? And send something out of the House that has no license caps and some of the other things that are beneficial to commercially. So we're going to have the perfection debate. We'll vote. The House will vote on the bill. The bill will go to the Fiscal Review Committee to decide on what the fiscal note says, what it costs the state to implement the program and whatnot.
Right.
Then you go back to the House floor for a third read, and that's when you vote on it to send it up to the Senate. So, and then in the Senate we have basically 3 steps. Senate committee, Senate floor. I think there's also the fiscal review process in the Senate side, but Senate committee and Senate floor. Now that can happen in 3 days if the Senate wants to do it.
Now, that's a good point if they want to do it, because what word on the street is that the Senate is a bit of a debacle, right?
Yes. So I don't want to lie to anyone, and I don't want to give anyone the wrong impression, right? This bill could fail in the Senate for one of 2 reasons. One, the Senate just blows itself up.
They don't even want to do it.
Well, not even that. The Senate just blows itself up because they're fighting about something else.
Right.
They've been fighting about congressional.
That's what I mean by don't even want to do it. They just don't. It's just might not even come up.
Well,
right?
the Senate has already wasted a month and a half this year fighting over the congressional district maps.
Right.
Right. So, and those maps.
So they're working on redistricting, working
Yeah.
hard, I'm sure.
I thought the redistricting was finalized by now. No?
It should have been finalized by now.
Should have been.
So, to touch on the time amount here, and we'd spoken about the ability to get special sessions added on, or special committees or hearings added on, right?
Sure.
So if we're out of time, and we're not out of time, but coming close to the end of time, that this can be extended past the 15th, correct?
We have 3 weeks left. So let's say that we get to May 13, which is the last day of session. We got the bill to the Senate. Maybe we had a Senate committee hearing, but we just ran out of time.
Right.
So what's going to happen? Well, there's a couple possibilities, and I want to highlight. I'm going to highlight that even with end of session, we still have some options, right? We could ask the governor, or the House and the Senate can ask the governor to call a special session. The governor has done this in the last couple of years, partly because of the issues over COVID and actually getting meaningful business for the state done that had a lot of stuff.
Right.
Right. There's a lot of legislation that needed to get passed, and because of the shutdown in 2020,
Yeah, and I mean they could be thinking this whole time that's they could almost be like planning that, not whatever. Oh, we ran out of time, but I mean they could already be kind of whatever they're working on. They could already be like sort of thinking that it's going to go to a special session. Like I've seen this in a lot of the news stories. As I've been doing the news here, I'm like, okay, they always mention the special session because it seems like they're always running out of time for cannabis. Honestly, not even just Missouri, in like so many states, it's ridiculous.
It's last in line.
Right.
But the governor has said that he wanted us to
Yeah, so there's a basis.
That's right.
The governor has already established a basis for him to call a special session should we need it. Now,
Nice.
will he do that? I don't know. Right?
I feel optimistic that
Yeah.
that he will,
Now, there's a viewer
because he knows it's
question.
the right decision.
There's a viewer question there. When it becomes legal federally, will any of this even matter? And the answer is
Good question.
absolutely. Right? So, as you all know, we're opposing the legal Missouri 2022 ballot initiative, right, which wants to change the Missouri Constitution. So, that would enshrine the license caps in the Missouri Constitution. It would also impede the federal government's power of interstate commerce, because the Legal Missouri campaign has a little piece in their initiative that says that even if it's legal federally, all the marijuana that gets transacted through Missouri has to go through a Missouri licensed dispensary or operator, which in my mind is unconstitutional, right? Because if only the federal government, only Congress can agree to restrict interstate commerce. But
Right.
you know, if there's a conflict between the Missouri Constitution and federal law, or the federal Constitution, that sets us up for a lot of litigation and a lot of controversy that we don't need to have.
Can I touch on that a little bit
Please.
too? So, with the federal law, and everybody's always asking me this question all the time. Well, hey, the feds are about to legalize it. Every state has its own constitution,
Right.
and under the 10th Amendment, we get to make up our own rules. And so, if the federal government said tomorrow, legal guys, we still have our constitution because of, hopefully not Missouri 22, but the medical that we have. We have all these rules in our constitution that says what it says, that it's
otherwise
it's stuck that
in
way.
certain cases,
So
right.
so that's so when you go to vote on this, keep that in mind that we have to have full legalization. You can't settle for just what these guys, what this monopoly has set out there for us, because we're stuck with it. Even if it changes federally, we're stuck with what's in the Missouri Constitution.
A lot of people don't realize that the states and the federal government are co-equal sovereigns, right? The state of Missouri is a sovereign entity.
Absolutely.
Right? The federal government's a sovereign entity.
The 10th Amendment says that the state gets to make up their decision if it's not in the Constitution.
Correct.
Right. So, I mean, let's talk about the citizen petition is an amazing tool that we have at our disposal. And it is when the people of Missouri just stand up and we all come together and say, hey, you know, Jeff City legislators, you guys are not doing your job. So we, as the people, this is what we want, so that we've had to take it into our own hands. But honestly, if the legislator and the legislative body is doing their job, we can just like sit back, and the democratic process is amazing. That's what we elected them for, is to do that and to fulfill the will of the people. And if they're not doing that, that's why we have that petition. But the thing is, it's so strong that we really have to be careful with the way we use it. And we've learned that, you know, since the medical program, is because it really is very strong. The will of the people is so strong, it sets it into stone. It's very, very difficult to change. So if something is incorrect about it, you know, it just is, because you people wanted it, you know. So that's why it has been so frustrating.
Through my organization for years, as the medical was forming or trying to form, I was warning them, this is a monopoly, and with it being a monopoly, that we're not going to have a piece of this. And so, I'm sorry, where were you just going with that?
I was going to start complaining about petitioners in public.
So no, the petition process. So I've put on probably four campaigns every 2 years collecting signatures. I've collected tens of thousands of signatures for as House Bill 2704 was initially written.
Right.
That's what I collected signatures for. Except I didn't have any special interest to back me up.
Heck
And
no, man.
you guys got to wonder why
$28 an hour.
why these guys are getting paid $28
$10 a
an hour
signature.
to collect signatures.
It might be up to $1,000
It's
a
because-
signature
it's
by
because
now.
the monopoly-
If you go on Craigslist, they're saying, you know, $1,700 to like $2,000 a week.
Dude, I'm at the gas pump, right? And there's this guy over on this other side, and my ears are just very sensitive to cannabis legalization talk. So I start hearing this, and I go over there. I'm like, hold up. What do you got there, bud? And I'm like, let me see what you got here. I'm looking through it. I'm like, no, this is crap. You guys get out of here. He's like, man, I'm just, you know, I'm from Texas. I'm just like a petitioner from Texas. I'm like, I know what you're doing here, pal. Get out of here. No, that's an exaggeration, but it's just been so frustrating seeing them
Yeah,
all
they are
over the place, and
importing-
people are signing. They're like, hell yeah, I love legal weed, and it's like, no,
But there's a reason. There's a reason that these guys are able to collect. You think about it. In the medical, we got the signatures in 3 months. Now these guys are paying $25 an hour. Number one, because all the advocates learned what was going on
Yep.
and they backed out on it.
Exactly.
So that's why they're having to hire people to do this now.
Well, and they started going the other direction, and influencers, started telling people what's going on, and the people want what the people want.
And you were talking. So the initiative petition. So if I decided to put on another campaign come November and file for another campaign, who's going to back me up? And I'm not saying me necessarily. I'm talking about everybody, we the people. But I don't care who files, as long as there's a good initiative filed.
Right.
If this all happens, if everything goes to the waste.
Definitely. I think that we can probably just agree that it needs to be taken care of in the legislative body.
Right.
Let me
That's
talk.
my point.
Let me talk a little bit about what's potentially next steps. Let's say the Senate runs out of time. Let's say they blow themselves up over the congressional districts and nothing gets done, which is a likely scenario. Or a more nefarious scenario is the lobbyists, for legal Missouri, which is Steve Tilley and Tommy Robbins. Let's say they got a senator who's bought and paid for, and that senator kills her bill, right?
What's his address? No, I'm just kidding.
So, in that scenario,
Just kidding.
Just trying to keep it lively here, folks,
So, now I want to highlight right now, the signature deadline for legal Missouri is May 8th, right? And really it's May 5th because you need 2 or 3 days to do logistics and make sure that all the petitions are driven from Joplin up to, or, Hannibal up to Jeff City and put into all the boxes and, collated and whatnot, right? So they really have, it's the 22nd?
Of what?
Of what? Of April?
Of April?
Dude, yesterday
the
was
signature.
420, dog.
20.
Where were you, man?
Yeah, me
So
confused.
it's the 21st. It's the 21st, right? So they have, assuming May 5 is their collection day, and then they have to do 2 days of, filing and collating and driving up to Jeff City. Let's say May 5 is their deadline. That means right now they have to be collecting 9,000 to 10,000 signatures every single day. Right? So if all of you out in the community, whether you're in Jasper County, Joplin area, whether you're in St. Louis, whether you're in Kansas City, whether you're in Columbia, Gladstone. We're in Gladstone right now.
What about Gladstone?
We're in Gladstone.
Damn close.
Are you asking if we're in Gladstone right now? No, we're in Kansas City, but it is somewhat.
But we're close to Gladstone, right?
We don't give out the location.
Right. So we're in Kansas City. So you see one of those petitioners out there, make sure that the community knows that this legal Missouri campaign is a scam. Make sure that they know if they want legal marijuana. And the most effective talking point really is for me is to point out, hey, this ballot initiative wants to create a constitutional law enforcement stop and cite mandate if you're smoking weed in a public area. And if you possess more than 3 ounces, it could be a misdemeanor criminal charge, right? That is in their
They added
But
this in.
that's progressive, isn't it? It gets worse after that, doesn't it?
right? And they don't
Like it could become a felony.
they don't take
eventually.
they don't take marijuana out of the criminal penalties, out of the
descheduling,
out of the drug
right?
scheduling,
Yes.
and they don't remove the criminal penalties from Missouri statute. So the way that their initiative works is that if you have more than 6 ounces, you can get a felony charge, right? So to me, that's not legalization, right? And I want to actually
Well, no.
highlight.
Just from a logistical standpoint, if I can't take more than 6 ounces from point A to point B, that's just so stupid. Whatever.
That's not recreational marijuana, is it?
Well, it's just super inconvenient, is what it is. I mean, it's just dumb, and I'm just not going to follow
I
the
drive.
rules.
I drive a Mini Cooper, right? Small car, very gas efficient. I can fit at least 5 kegs, maybe 6 kegs of beer in my Mini, right?
Yeah.
There's no problem for me to drive
Pray
that.
for your shocks.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah,
Right.
you're right. You can have you can have alcohol, stack it on top. If you can safely stack it on top of your car, you can have all those kegs if you want. You know what I mean? And then they're going to limit you to 6 ounces, which is like that's a pittance.
I want to highlight a statement made by one of the state representatives who voted against our bill, Representative Phil Crispinelli. He's the chairman, actually, of the Rules Committee. But he told the Post-Dispatch that, quote, he had grave concerns, and he thinks that there needs to be reasonable limits placed on possession and grow facilities, right? So I would tell him, I have grave concerns over people being criminalized, arrested, prosecuted, and incarcerated for marijuana possession.
Yeah, you want to talk about what's going to do more harm to more people. And I would like to touch on that just because this is often a talking point that's used against us. He has grave concerns that it will somehow expand the black market, right? Those were his grave concerns. And so, you know, we talk about what makes up the black market and what makes the black market strong. Well, that's going to be high prices. That's going to be license caps because the black market is just going to make up for it. People aren't going to pay those prices, and they absolutely do not have to.
I would actually add, there's a deeper issue here, right? It's a question of governmental legitimacy, right? Part of the issue with prohibition of marijuana right now is that, you know, practically at least 70% of Missourians, maybe more right now, agree that marijuana should not be criminalized. We all know it's a plant that God put on this earth, right?
Right.
And because it's illegal, I mean, how pervasively in the United States or in Missouri are people breaking that law? It's an unenforceable law. It harms the legitimacy of our government because if our government is in the position of enforcing an unenforceable law, then, I mean, you create disrespect for the rule of law, you create disrespect for the, right? So if you have license caps, if you have an industry where young men and young women who, you know, think about the young black kid on the east side of Troost, you know, he sees, you know, those big dispensaries and, you know, he knows he can run around his neighborhood and, you know, hustle a couple pounds, make a couple bucks, right? But if he doesn't have a legal pathway when it becomes legal, then what is the government there for, right? What is the promise of America for him? Right.
You've taken this.
The poor go to jail and the rich get richer.
Exactly.
Right.
You've taken this unjust law and you've, we see a lot of money here, so yeah, you know, we're just gonna legalize it. Just to this point, though, you know, just over to Troost, you know, since you want to put it that way, you know, as far as Kansas City history goes, and you know, that to me is an exaggeration, but it's almost not.
Right.
Okay, and so that's an issue. You know, license caps are an issue for sure.
And that's how I talk about the micro licenses, you know, that Legal Mo is trying to put out. And they want to create micro licenses that are allocated by lottery, which just tells me that this is a system that can be gamed. But as I tell people, like, look, micro licenses are a second-class Jim Crow solution to a problem that should have never been a problem in the first place.
I like that question. The actual question is, why is it so fucking hard? You know, it's just not that damn hard. Oh my gosh, yeah, very good, very good.
So let me talk about, look, we have 14 days till May 5, you know, 17 days till May 8, which is the Legal No signature collection deadline. If all of you out there go out and block them from getting a few hundred signatures every day, put out the flyer that we've got posted in, we've got a couple flyers.
I can add a piece of this, I'm sorry, but
I thought you said
please.
put out the fire. I was like, what?
Flyer.
Gotcha.
it is illegal for someone to sign the petition without the person witnessing the signature. This is happening all over the state. You guys see somebody signing the petitions without the petitioner witnessing the signature? Film them and send it to us.
Let me ask you this, though. I did see a news story where I want to say it was not Tom Robbins from MoCan Trade, the representative. What is his name? I can't remember. He was here on our show. He came and shared some details of Legal Mo 2022 for us. Do you remember him, Zach? Okay,
John
anyway.
Payne?
Yes, that's right. He made it. He was quoted, I believe, in an article as saying that they have enough signatures.
Okay, so with signature collection campaigns, the rule of thumb is that you typically need to have twice as many signatures as your goal, right? The reason why is that, look, Tim's a registered voter, but maybe he forgot that since he registered to vote, he moved from address A to address B, right?
Right.
So if he
Lots
puts
of considerations.
if he puts his new address in and not
It's
the
invalid.
address that he's
It's
registered
invalid.
at, his signature is invalid, right? Or maybe he signed his name, or he used his middle name that or
Right.
nickname.
Maybe
or
somebody signed a
whatever.
fake name. Sometimes it's,
And after
that's
collecting
hilarious, so.
collecting these signatures after all these years, I bet you half the people that tried, I'm like, you're not a registered voter, are you? yeah, I am. No, you're not.
Oh man.
Yeah, just let me sign. I'm like, dude, you're screwing me up if you sign.
I can
I
tell
don't
Woody
even-
is. He's got
Right.
some feelings about that.
So
Yeah, some
it really
frustrations
is
going on.
frustrating. I mean,
yeah, okay.
so
So,
they're
you're
gonna
saying
have to
that
deal with that-
the
those
rule of
signatures.
thumb is they should double up.
So if you need 175 or so thousand valid signatures, you
Right.
should be collecting 350,000 signatures.
Okay, good
minimum.
information.
and,
Good
and,
information.
and
So-
the districts as well.
And you also have to collect threshold numbers of signatures in each of 6 of Missouri's 8 congressional districts. So last weekend, they said, "Oh, we have 200,000 signatures. That's enough to make the ballot."
That could be
No,
200,000 signatures in one district instead of all
Right.
6.
We don't know their signature
Not that it would be,
allocation
but-
per.
No, I see
Exaggerated.
what you're saying. There's things that need to.
We don't know their signature allocation per congressional district. We don't know their validity rate. Heck, even if they have a 30% invalidity rate, that's still 60,000 signatures,
enough.
right? So they need, by my rough calculation, 140,000 signatures by May 5-ish to have a good enough cushion that they'll likely make the ballot, right? So if you guys go out there and you tell your community, you pass out the information, say, hey, we want legalization, but this ain't it, then
They were short in District 7, is that right?
they, like, you know,
Springfield or, you're right?
2 weeks ago, I got a call from a political consultant friend of mine who was like, hey, Legal Missouri is trying to hire door-to-door canvassers in Congressional District 3 and Congressional District 6. So 6 is basically Sam Graves's congressional district north of I-70, and then District 3 is like Franklin County, Jefferson County, Cole County, Callaway, that area.
Gotcha.
Right? So if you're doing door-to-door canvassing, you're in bad shape. You're in bad shape.
You just have to look at the money that they're spending to understand their sense of urgency.
Why
here.
they're doing what they're doing.
Right. They're
spending millions.
There's a fire lit under somebody's ass, and
last
there's been some
weekend,
meetings.
$500,000 in one weekend.
Right.
One weekend in donations by. You know who the people
Oh,
donating
and
are, guys?
just in April. Well, we all know. I mean, everyone knows. But just in April, right? $500,000.
Oh, at least.
Right.
Probably
Yeah, I
more
think
at
it
this-
was probably it's probably more at this
It's more
juncture.
than
That's
that.
what
It's more than that.
was reported in last week's Top Shelf Weekly Update.
So look, it's not a done deal by a long shot that they're going to make the ballot. In fact, if you guys put out some time and effort in the next 14 days and get out in your community, we've got flyers, that are pinned posts on the Missouri Marijuana Legalization Movement Facebook page, right? If you download those flyers, print them out, hand them out in your community.
Educate the people about
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah. And you can block, 500,000, 10,000 signatures from your district. We might pull this off with almost no money, right? Because I'll tell you another thing that's going to happen. So a couple days ago, the Beacon, which is like this independent news outlet, they published a story about House Bill 2704 and its advancement, and they cited our good friend, State Representative Ashley Bland Manlove from Kansas City. She's, as you know, she's the chair of the Missouri Legislative Black Caucus, and which represents all the black elected officials in the legislature, right? And all of those guys are realizing legal Missouri is a scam, right? There are 2 black-owned marijuana businesses in the state right now, and the micro business license idea is a scam, and it is insulting, because how dare you control the market and give our people pennies,
They won't even let the minorities share with the big guys.
right?
You have to share. You have to deal with each other. You won't be able to deal with the big boys.
So Ashley Bland Manlove gave a great quote to the Beacon, the Kansas City Beacon, that says, just like any other campaign that is not good for my community, I stand up against it. And so right now I'm standing up against the legal Missouri 22 petition. If the petition fails to gain the required amounts of signatures, I'll take that as a win because the petition is just not good. So we have a legislative leader, the chair of the Missouri Legislative Black Caucus, who is leading the charge against legal Missouri. So let's flash forward to worst case scenario, which is our bill doesn't get past the Senate and the legal Missouri campaign qualifies for the November ballot, right? Which the Secretary of State has until roughly August, first or second week of August, to make the sufficiency declaration for all the ballot initiatives. So in that case, what we are going to do, Tim and I are already working on this. We're going to set up town halls all across the state. We're going to invite leaders in the community. We're going to invite people, from the community. We're going to invite lawmakers. We're going to invite all kinds of advocates, and we're going to have all the information to present to the people of Missouri about this initiative and about and solicit input of what the people of Missouri really want, right? So we'll set up town halls, and I'm already working on a campaign. We've got a PAC. We're working on a campaign to make sure that we don't let this campaign get away.
Once it's locked in the Constitution,
Right.
we're locked in.
Right.
We're locked in for at least 2 years, no matter what, and then they'll have so much control and that much
Still a
more
lot
money
of work, even after that, And honestly, it's like this is a moment here because the democratic process is ours. We own it, okay? And if we're calling out for our legislators to do this for us and they won't, and it's pretty much blatantly because of money, well, then we've got a problem. We've got a real problem. We've got some really hard questions that need to be answered. And honestly, I have more faith in our legislators, at least regarding cannabis, than that. This is a bipartisan issue. We've got people on both sides of the aisle like getting along. That never ever happens. They've been literally fighting forever and they never stop. Okay, and when they do get along, it's like, first off, it's just, you wonder what they're trying to pull. Anyway, it's for cannabis. It's for us. But this is kind of the purpose of this, right? Is because there's just been so much talk. Okay, and we're optimistic. I am very optimistic about HB2704, and I know that if we fight hard enough, we can definitely make a difference. And like I said, if not, then we've got some questions to ask.
Well, we still need to address the senators that's going to come up for vote.
Yeah.
So that
We
hasn't
should.
really been brought
That's-
up.
So-
Don't stop contacting
No, bother
our
them.
lawmakers.
Just call them and see how they're doing. How's your day
Hey,
going?
John
Are
Sharp.
you getting along with
I
such
wanna-
and such?
John Sharp, I want to talk to you. So if you'll send me a Facebook request and we can have that conversation, I'd love to
Yeah,
hear more
that's
about
interesting.
Hey,
information.
but I'll say this though, guys, don't get in trouble with your job. I'm not saying that that's probably illegal, but that does not matter, John. I know that everybody out there, you need your jobs, and don't get involved with these guys and get yourself in trouble. You know what I mean? So
I will
just
say that-
saying, we care about you guys more than that.
I will say if any of you give me information and you ask me to keep it confidential, I will keep it confidential.
Right. So anyway, let's just say it right now. John's not gonna get a hold of Eepin. All right. Right. So. Okay.
So I want to do one last topic here, and it's really a pitch, right? So, Tim, and you know this because you've sacrificed a lot, not just personally but also financially, to ensure that we had a movement that represented the people.
Well worth a while.
Right?
Yes.
Yep. So one of the things that we have not had a lot of, we've had, I started working on House Bill, what is now House Bill 2704, probably about a year ago, because in the end of March, I saw the House vote 118 to 29 to punish the Health and Senior Services Department for maintaining the license caps. And I knew then that we had a pathway, and then in December, Governor called on the legislature to act on this issue, and that got Ron Hicks ready to go. And I talked to a lot of people, and it was hard for a lot of people to understand this possibility until in February when we actually got the bill filed, right? In February, we got the bill filed, and suddenly I'm getting blown up. Every grassroots cannabis advocate in the state of Missouri is saying, hey, this is fantastic. We actually have something that we can buy into and believe in.
It
right?
was only a month before all of us pulled together. Several organizations, huge organizations in Missouri, all pulled together and
right?
started working together on this.
And we have had an incredible coming together of people from all over the state. I got people from Maryville up in Nottoway County. I got people from, Cape Girardeau, Joplin, Hannibal, and everywhere in between, right? So you guys have done an amazing thing, showing up to testify, contacting and showing up to your state representatives and senators. But to make this a viable movement, to ensure that we are set for success either this year or the next year, because I tell you what, if we don't get this bill passed this year, if we're able to shut down the Legal Missouri campaign, then we need to be setting the stage for action in 2023. And not just that, but you guys know from when the medical marijuana language got put into the Constitution in 2018, nobody talked to the cops, right? There's still cops in the state who are pulling people over and don't get that because you have your medical card, you can carry legal marijuana, right?
They still don't understand it. They still understand it for home cultivators. Are still, you're supposed to have that in a jar
Right.
or container labeled. And
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
They don't have a clue.
Been watching too much television.
Exactly. So, it's not just that we need to ensure that we're electing the right people in November because, every state representative who isn't terming out has a primary or a general election, or if it's an open seat, there's a contested election, right? And the same with the senators, right? So I'm going to be all over the state of Missouri from June through November. I'm going to talk to candidates for office. I'm going to talk to sheriff candidates. I'm going to talk to prosecutor candidates all over the state, right?
I vow to keep on the campaign just as hard to put down Legal Mo 22, to put down the ballot initiative just as hard as I've worked on getting our House bill through.
Yeah, but that sucks. Let's get this House bill through.
Yeah, absolutely. But understand that the ballot initiative supersedes the House bill, but I don't think it would.
Believe that. That's a good point. If HB 2704 was to go through, then suddenly all these wonderful people who are getting, signing these petitions suddenly go on my way to vote for legal weed now, and it's like, no, stop. You know what I mean? So definitely the campaign, the awareness campaign for a vote no, not just a don't go vote, go vote no on that. If that happens, that's a possible scenario. So because it will override House Bill 2704 because it's the will of the people.
Yes, vote no, as you said. So that's the most
go
important.
Vote no.
We have an opportunity to still stop this, even if they make the ballot. So, and that's my campaign, my personal campaign, as it has been literally since before the medical initiative. I voted no against medical myself. Not because I didn't want people to have their medicine. People out there, oh my God, you did what? No, because I knew it was a monopoly.
Appalling. No, I understand.
I was calling it a monopoly 2 years before the monopoly ever formed. Once you turn the rights over to House Health and Senior Services to put all these caps and make any change they want. By the way, that has been an issue. Some people complained about the House bill going to the Department of Health and Senior Services.
That's a good point.
Well, I was pissed off about it, but I understand it too because it's not like when it was with the medical initiative.
Well, let's think about this, right? Because a judgment actually just came down for Wise Health, the people who did the scoring for that, okay? And one of the companies was awarded $28 million because the word capriciously was used, all right? Okay, so they're throwing...
So is the word corrupt.
Yes, exactly. So you know, that's a huge precedent.
That was one of
Right.
822 lawsuits, by the way. Against
Well, but that's
the
part of this conversation, okay? And well, it wasn't against DHSS, it was against Wise, right?
They still have to collect,
I'm
though.
saying
they
all
you know,
together.
they're just never going to get that money. You know, anytime,
Well,
that's,
you know, Wise is going to go to its insurance carrier, and
well, hopefully, yeah.
and
they'll
the
just pay,
and the
but-
plaintiffs who got the judgment are going to have to go to that insurance carrier and force the money out, right? So they're not there yet. But here's the pitch. Here's the pitch that I have for you guys. Is that look, with almost no money, and with the support of several key lawmakers, we have made a huge dent in a $4 million corrupt crony capitalist campaign, right? And we're not done yet. We haven't passed our bill. And if we don't pass our bill, we got to fight the Legal Missouri campaign to the ballot, right? And we got to set ourselves up for success in 2023, right? And actually, my friend Chris Kelly, who used to be a judge in Boone County, he made the point to me, and he actually put this in an op-ed in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He said, look, the state of Missouri legalized alcohol a few years after the United States ratified the 21st Amendment. Every single year after, we have made some kind of legislative tweak to our alcohol laws. You know, it's been a very difficult thing to get right, and I'm not saying we even got it right today, but you think about
That's scary.
the
Actually.
challenge of
That
regulating,
almost scares me more than gives me hope.
right?
Because they're just like, oh, you know, we're going to tweak it here, we're going to tweak it there, and then next thing you know, it's morphed into this whole thing.
Well, you think
So
about
that's-
last year, we legalized to-go cocktails in the state of Missouri, right? That's awesome.
So you think it's been in our favor? The tweaks have been.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
then
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
take that.
You know, and actually, most of the tweaks that have happened to the alcohol laws have had to do with the three-tier distribution system, right? That we have. Most of them are like small things too, bonded, distilleries or warehouses or whatever. Like, change this fee, change that fee, make this requirement, whatever.
Gotcha.
But I used to be in the wine and restaurant business, so I have some familiarity with all this. Right.
So if you touched on the DHSS, would they have control over the House bill? And not the same control, because in Article 14, it said that they were given full control to make any rules and changes as they chose. And that was one thing, that's why I started spreading the word that this wasn't a good idea, guys. This is why it come to attention. Just an FYI for you, a lot of people don't know this. I've
We got to
educated
get
a
the
lot of
right
people on
people
this.
in DHSS. is
So,
what I'm telling
well, hey, the DHSS, guess who holds the drug schedule in Missouri? It's the Department of Health Senior Services, DHSS. The same guys that hold the drug schedule and that we're trying to remove off of Missouri's drug schedule. They hold and control the drug schedule, but they're also the ones who sell you the license to consume, to sell, and buy marijuana. There's something seriously wrong with that. It does not have any medical benefit.
Does not compute.
But we'll sell you the license to buy it and sell it and consume it.
So here's the pitch. I want to get back to this, right? Fact is, we need the financial support of the people of Missouri on this. Like we're fighting literally a $4 billion campaign. If they qualify for the ballot, I am sure they're going to spend $2 or $3 million more. And we've shown that we have had an outsized impact partly because Tim has 64,000 people in his group, right? If we had 1,000 of those people giving us $5, $10, $15, $20 a month, that money adds up real quick. It creates our ability to have a sustainable movement, right? We need to pay people. We need to pay professionals to do our graphic design, help us with social media, help us with mass communications. We desperately need a press specialist, right? We've been able to stay in the news because we've got lawmakers who are taking up our cause, and it's hard for, and it's easy for the media to latch onto what a state lawmaker is doing, but we desperately need to pay a PR professional.
If I could afford financially to travel around the state, just gas money alone.
If I could give Tim gas money to get from here to wherever we need to have an impact.
I would set up, which all you guys need to set up events around the state too. At these dispensaries, like you've seen us protest these dispensaries that are collecting the signatures. Take it upon yourselves. You're in your town. May not take any gas at all to walk across the street to your dispensary and stand there with a sign and saying these guys are promoting a monopoly. It's just, I'm just one guy. I've managed to been doing this for so long that managed to get 64,000 to get people together to work on it. You know.
You know, we need to make sure that we are electing state representatives and senators and prosecutors and sheriffs who understand who we are, that we're productive, otherwise we're productive citizens of the state of Missouri, that we're here for the good of the community, right, who get what we're doing. You know, and those candidates are out there, but if we never get to talk to them, if we never show up to help elect them to office, then what are we going to come talk to them next year about, right? We're starting from step 1 where we should be on step 4 or 5.
Are we stuck here on
Right.
our time? A few minutes here left. Is that where we're at?
So,
I don't know. I mean, if you guys have important stuff to say, I wasn't gonna.
well, I just
cut
want
you
to.
off. Is that what are you doing?
You're going. Keep
Are you
going.
signing? Okay. Oh, that's the keep going sign. All right. I thought it was the wrap it up sign. No,
So,
no. We'll take
I
this
just wanna-
as long as we need to
I
get
just
it right.
want to add this one last bit. So, like, we need your financial support, right? So, I'm sure you guys can put up the political action committee that we work with is called Crossing Paths. So that's Crossing Paths, PATHS.
Yeah, if somebody could throw that link up for us, that'd be
PAC.com.
awesome.
So crossingpathspac.com.
It's a tongue twister. CrossingPathsPack.com.
Yeah. Yes.
Crossing Paths Pack. That's not so bad. It's kind of growing on me.
Yeah. So,
But
you know,
I never was good at collecting money. In fact, that's why I never got anything done after collecting all the signatures over the years. Like I said, but money talks.
yeah. And, you know, I got to shout out to a lot of the operators in our hemp industry. So, like Pinnacle Hemp, we got Hemp Hooray, we got Top Shelf Hemp, you know, that have been financially supporting this this campaign. You know, and that's been fantastic. And part of the reason why is that MoCan Trade and the Legal Missouri campaign is an existential threat to the hemp industry in the state of Missouri because they're trying to capture all the hemp business that they don't already have. So those operators have been supporting us, but we desperately need to expand that. We need to raise more money. We need to get Tim wherever we need to send him. We need to...
Basically, these guys are on the front lines. They're fighting for us every single day. And you guys know that gas is expensive as hell. And I mean, every single thing else that you have to buy throughout your day is, as we all know, has all gone up. So,
I know that you had the Show Me Canada Freedom link up there. Can you also make sure that we have the Crossing Paths link up there?
So we know that not everybody can can give money,
Yeah.
but if there's anybody out there that can, it'd be definitely appreciated in this fight. And these are our guys, man. These are the cannabis warriors of this fight right now. You know, besides our actual representatives.
Never been paid a dime for any of this. But
And I'm going to just say this, right? Like, I wasn't actually going to say this. I was going to keep this to myself, but this brings up a very interesting topic. Something. Tonight's words of wisdom are not a joke at all. Okay, they were told to me by someone who I trust very much. All right, they said that these things aren't actually. Well, okay, we talked about debating things on the floor of the house, right? And I was told that it's very similar to, say, like WWF, like wrestling. And so instantly I thought to myself, oh, okay, you guys are out there, battling it out in a Royal Rumble. And you're all getting it done, okay? But that was a misunderstanding, all right? Because the real place that this gets done is never on the house. If you're debating your topic, and these are words from this man, if you're debating your topic on the House floor, you've already lost, okay? These guys are behind the scenes. They're getting it done. They're talking to people in offices, okay? That's what really moves legislation forward. We can all sit here and act like it happens on the House floor if we want. But I, for one, I'm not cool with that.
I like your analogy to wrestling because you're right. 90% of what happens in committee hearings and in floor debate in the House or the Senate is scripted, right? We already know 90% of what's going to happen before it happens, right? That's because we've talked to the lawmakers. We know who's going to introduce the amendments. We've talked to people who's going to stand up in support of that amendment and say this and that, right? 90% of that is scripted. Now, sometimes it just goes off the rails, once in a while.
Right,
But,
okay.
But 90% of the time, you know exactly what's going to happen ahead of time.
You guys are getting the work done behind the scenes, right? You guys are back there, the wrestlers are arguing and fighting, threatening each other. No, I'm just kidding. But you guys understand what I'm saying. So, you know, if you guys can give some money to these guys, I think it would definitely be a worthy cause because they're really the ones out there doing the work. So, guys, I think that's probably about our time for tonight.
Facebook Missouri Marijuana Legalization Movement.
You all know where Tim's at. We all know we're all over there. He's got how many people over there?
65,000.
65,000 followers.
We can post one post and have 25,000.
I'm telling you
active
what,
members watching
that's
anytime,
really
so.
impressive and very cool. Get over there if you're not, but I assume that you already are. Epen, did you have anything important you'd like to add?
Just want to thank you and Vernon for having us. And,
Of course.
Absolutely.
God bless all of you, and God bless the great state of Missouri.
All right, you guys, you know what to do. Peace out and stay lifted.